close your eyes. Imagine a single drop of liquid falling through the absolute dark. It descends in slow motion, a perfectly spherical entity of pure vulnerability. It falls toward a surface so violently hot that the very concept of temperature loses all structural meaning. The exact moment the liquid strikes the surface, there is no hiss. There is no steam. The sound it makes is a high, tearing scream of atomic bonds shattering in a fraction of a millisecond. Listen to the air inside your lungs right now. Breathe it in deeply. Feel the cool, steady, comforting rhythm of oxygen filling the delicate branches of your chest. It feels permanent, does it not? It feels like a fundamental right of your physical existence, a gentle embrace that has always been there and will always remain. I need you to take that comforting illusion of safety, that fragile sense of biological security, and completely strip it away. I need you to travel back with me. Not a few centuries, not a few millennia. We are going back 4.5 billion years into the dark. We are descending into the Hadean Eon, to a time when this spinning sphere of ours was not a blue sanctuary of life. It was a cosmic slaughterhouse. Picture a world without a single centimeter of solid ground to stand upon. If you were miraculously dropped into this ancient epoch, gravity would immediately pull you downward, but there would be no soil, no rock, no crust to catch your fall. Instead, you would plunge directly into an ocean. But this is not an ocean of water. You are falling into a limitless abyss of liquid fire, a global sea of molten rock stretching for thousands upon thousands of kilometers in every conceivable direction and plunging hundreds of kilometers deep into the heavy, churning core of the planet. Focus on the sensation of heat. We are not talking about the mild warmth of a summer sun or the localized sting of a burning ember. We are talking about ambient environmental temperatures exceeding 1,980 degrees Celsius. At this extreme thermal threshold, rock does not merely melt into sludge, it boils. It flows with the thin, rapid viscosity of water, churning in violent, blindingly luminous currents of pure crimson and searing orange. The heat radiating off this endless magma ocean is not just a temperature, it is a physical weight. It is an oppressive, crushing force that wraps around you. If you were suspended just a few meters above this glowing surface, the radiant energy alone would cause the moisture in your eyes to vaporize instantly. Your skin would char and turn to ash before your brain could even process the electrical signals of pain. The air trapped inside your lungs would expand with such violent, thermal rapidity that your chest cavity would explode outward. You are a witness to the absolute dominion of fire. Here, fire is not a chemical reaction. It is the reigning monarch of the globe. It consumes everything. It purifies everything. It dictates the movement of every single atom. It is a reign of thermodynamic terror, where matter exists only in a constant state of agonizing flux, constantly torn apart by massive convection currents rising from the deep, heavy bowels of the young planet, only to be dragged back down into the crushing pressure of the abyss. It is a beautiful, horrifying symmetry of absolute destruction. Look up from the boiling sea, if your melting eyes could even manage it. There is no blue sky. There are no clouds of white condensation. Above this rolling sea of annihilation lies an atmosphere so thick, so impossibly dense, that it acts like a solid physical barrier pressing down on your skull. It is a suffocating, heavy blanket composed of carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and methane, trapping every single gram of the 1,600-degree heat radiating from the liquid earth below. Breathing in this environment would be akin to inhaling vaporized lead. Your throat would instantly sear shut. It is a dome of dark, swirling, toxic gases, illuminated from below purely by the violent, shifting, bloody glow of the Earth itself. And then there is the moon. It is not the distant, quiet silver companion that graces your night sky today. 4 billion years ago, the moon was terrifyingly close to the Earth. It hangs massive and imposing in the toxic, red sky, filling your entire field of vision, its gravitational weight dragging relentlessly across the planet. Because there are no continents, no land masses to break the momentum of the ocean, this immense gravitational pull creates tides. But these are not the gentle rhythms of salt water kissing a sandy beach. These are towering walls of liquid fire. Imagine it. Molten tsunamis composed of heavy iron and glowing silicates, cresting dozens of meters into the toxic, suffocating air. These massive tidal waves of magma roll across the globe at terrifying speeds, crashing into opposing currents of fire with a kinetic force that shatters the very concept of sound. The impact of a magma wave is not a splash. It is an earth-shattering detonation. If you were suspended in the thick atmosphere above it, the sheer acoustic violence, the low-frequency roar of millions of tons of liquid rock tearing itself apart would liquefy your internal organs long before the ambient heat could turn your bones to dust. It is a continuous, deafening symphony of geological violence, playing on an endless loop for millions upon millions of years. There is no escape. There is no relief. The entire planet is locked in a state of terminal fury. The magma ocean roars, boiling out toxic gases, creating a planetary pressure cooker that seems designed to remain sterile and dead for the rest of eternity. Everything is heavy. Everything is blinding. Everything is loud. And yet, deep within this chaotic ocean of endless fire, in the darkest, most pressurized currents of the churning mantle, something imperceptible is being forged. Amidst the relentless atomic slaughter, tiny, virtually indestructible grains of silicate are taking shape under unimaginable pressure. Crystals of zircon, no larger than a microscopic speck of dust, born in the ultimate furnace. They drift blindly through the molten currents, utterly insignificant against the backdrop of a boiling planet. Inside one of these microscopic crystal cages, trapped forever by the rapidly cooling lattice of the mineral, is a flaw. It is a microscopic void, a tiny pocket containing a trapped anomaly, emitting a faint, utterly harmless vibrational frequency, a static echo, a ghost of a whisper in the roaring inferno. It means nothing right now. It is merely a mathematical anomaly, a microscopic error in the endless sea of fire. We will leave it there, drifting blindly in the dark, swirling depths. Because high above this infernal landscape, suspended in the coldest, most distant upper layers of the toxic atmosphere, out of reach of the boiling magma, a ghost is beginning to gather. Something completely alien to this world of fire is taking form in the dark. Look upward, away from the boiling ocean of magma. Look into the absolute black. There is no star in this sky. There is no sun visible through this oppressive, monolithic vault. What sits above the global sea of liquid rock is a suffocating, crushing blanket of pure pressure. Feel it on your skin right now. Imagine the weight of an entire ocean resting squarely on your chest. If you were floating in this ancient air, your physical body would not simply burn. It would be fundamentally crushed. You are experiencing an atmospheric pressure roughly 250 times greater than the gentle, invisible breeze you walk through today. Under this kind of localized force, human bones do not break. They are pulverized into dust. Your ribs would snap inward instantly. Your eardrums would shatter and fold into your skull. The weight of this dark sky is an absolute, unavoidable tyrant. It is not air. Do not insult this environment by comparing it to the oxygen you are currently breathing. It is a chemical nightmare. It is a toxic soup of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and hydrogen sulfide. But above all these poisons, there is water. But you must not think of the cool, refreshing rain that washes your streets or the calm lakes of your childhood. The water in this atmosphere is a terrifying monster because of the sheer, unfathomable heat radiating continuously from the magma below and the crushing gravitational pressure pressing down from above. The water suspended in this atmosphere cannot exist as a simple, floating vapor. The laws of thermodynamics are warped here. The water is forced into a terrifying, paradoxical physical state. It becomes a supercritical fluid. A supercritical fluid. The very phrase defies standard logic. It is an abomination of chemistry. It possesses the incredible, crushing density of a liquid, yet it expands relentlessly to fill every microscopic void of space like a gas. It is a dense, boiling, corrosive fog. It is a restless ghost that can dissolve solid matter simply by touching it. Imagine breathing in a liquid that tears through your delicate lung tissue like a hot vapor, incredibly heavy and impossibly thick, filling your fragile chest cavity with a boiling, iron-tasting acid. You would drown and burn simultaneously. Every cell in your respiratory system would be screaming as it dissolves. This toxic, supercritical fog wraps the entire planet in an impenetrable, suffocating shroud. It acts as a perfect thermal mirror, trapping every single degree of extreme heat escaping from the violent core. It transforms the Earth into a closed oven, a planetary pressure cooker where the lid has been permanently and immovably sealed by gravity itself. Within this dense, dark, fluid sky, violent electrical storms are constantly raging on a scale that defies human comprehension. Lightning, utterly silent in the dense, heavy medium, flashes in violent, jagged streaks of deep purple and blinding white, illuminating the boiling fog for only a fraction of a second. The static electricity generated by the friction of trillions of tons of supercritical water rubbing against itself is enough to tear molecules apart. And yet, this massive, global cloud of supercritical water is merely waiting. It is trapped in a bitter, agonizing stalemate with the fire below. It wants to fall. The fundamental law of gravity demands that it falls. The sheer, unadulterated weight of billions of tons of suspended liquid is begging to crash down upon the endless magma. But the ambient heat absolutely refuses it. The radiant thermal energy rising from the burning surface acts as an invisible, impenetrable shield, pushing the supercritical fog back up into the dark. An invisible, violently vibrating thermal wall separates the two reigning gods of this young, chaotic planet. Fire and water, locked in an eternal, agonizing standoff that stretches across millennia. Let us look away from the violent sky for a moment. Let us dive back down into the boiling, red dark of the magma ocean. Deep, deep within the churning, radioactive mantle. Remember the tiny, microscopic grain we left behind in the dark. The crystal of zircon. It is smaller than the width of a single human hair. It is being violently tossed and dragged through the liquid fire, subjected to ambient temperatures that would instantly vaporize modern steel. It is pulled down into the crushing depths of the mantle, then thrown back up towards the surface in a continuous, violent convection loop, but the internal lattice of the zircon holds firm. It is a perfect, virtually indestructible fortress, a microscopic cage of pure, unyielding geometry. It is the only solid thing on a planet made entirely of liquid and gas. Look closer. Look deep inside the microscopic structure of this cage. There is a flaw, a tiny, perfectly spherical void trapped within the crystal lattice. And trapped inside that incredibly small void is a droplet, a microscopic bubble of ancient water that somehow, impossibly, became encased when the crystal first formed in the extreme, crushing pressure of the deep mantle. Listen to it. It is vibrating, a faint, static echo, a rhythmic, oscillating pulse. It is just the microscopic thermal vibration of a trapped molecule reacting to the intense ambient heat of the magma ocean outside its cage. It is perfectly harmless. It is a meaningless whisper in the dark. It means nothing. Just a static echo. Forget it. The universe, however, does not care for stalemates. The universe demands entropy. The universe demands absolute change. Over the span of millions of agonizing, repetitive years, a subtle shift begins to occur in the high, freezing upper limits of the atmosphere. Far, far away from the boiling heat of the radiant surface, at the very edge where the atmosphere bleeds into the vacuum of space, the temperature finally drops. The dark vacuum of the cosmos is unfathomably cold, absolute zero cold. It is a relentless vacuum that slowly, patiently, begins to steal the thermal energy away from the upper layers of the supercritical cloud. Slowly, imperceptibly, the edge of the cloud begins to cool. As the ambient temperature drops, the supercritical fluid at the very top of the atmosphere loses its grip on its monstrous, dual state. It begins to condense. It transitions. It remembers what it was always supposed to be. It remembers how to be a simple liquid. Molecules begin to bind together in the freezing, absolute dark. They pull towards one another, desperate for structure. They form a droplet, a single, heavy drop of pure, liquid water. It hangs there, suspended at the very edge of the atmosphere. A tiny, fragile, perfect sphere of potential salvation in a world defined by absolute damnation. It is incredibly cold. It is incredibly dense. And it is now entirely subject to the relentless pull of gravity. It begins to fall. This is not a simple raindrop. It is a physical declaration of war. It plummets through the dark, toxic clouds, accelerating wildly towards the boiling ocean of fire waiting far below. It cuts smoothly through the dense, heavy layers of the atmosphere, gathering speed, gathering mass. It is a silent, lethal, cold projectile aimed directly at the burning heart of the fiery monarch. The descent takes agonizing time. It falls through countless layers of crushing, invisible pressure. It falls through the violent, silent storms of purple lightning, illuminated in brief, terrifying flashes of stark light. It falls relentlessly towards the blinding, radiant, orange glow of the endless magma ocean. The heat rises violently to meet it. The invisible thermal wall tries desperately to push the drop back up into the sky. But this specific drop is too cold. It is too heavy. It carries the immense, built-up weight of a billion years of waiting. It tears straight through the thermal barrier. It approaches the boiling surface. The fire screams. The water falls. It is centimeters away. Hold your breath. Hold it right now and focus your entire mind on that single, perfect drop of water plummeting through the heavy, toxic dark. It is descending at an incredible velocity, a tiny, freezing sphere of hydrogen and oxygen bound tightly together by the sheer cold of the upper atmosphere. Below it, the endless ocean of glowing red liquid rock roars, a violent tempest of extreme thermal energy radiating heat upward in heavy, suffocating waves. You expect a collision. You have been conditioned by a lifetime of ordinary experiences to expect the water to strike the fire. You imagine the satisfying, violent hiss of a liquid quenching a flame, the sudden burst of cooling white steam rising triumphantly from the dark crust. You want this tiny drop to be the hero of this ancient story, the initial strike that will eventually cool this raging planet and pave the way for green continents, deep blue oceans, and the delicate biological rhythm of your own beating heart. Forget your expectations. Your logic is flawed. Look closer at the physical space between the falling water and the boiling rock. Look at the final fraction of a centimeter. As the drop of water crosses this microscopic threshold, it enters a zone of thermal radiation so profoundly violent that standard physical laws completely fracture. The ambient temperature in this tiny, localized pocket of space sitting directly above the magma is pushing past 1,650 degrees Celsius. This is not a heat that slowly warms. This is a radiant, kinetic fury that directly attacks the molecular bonds of anything it touches. The water never touches the fire. It never even gets close. In a time frame completely imperceptible to the human brain, Measuring in the mere millionths of a second, the incredible radiant heat radiating from the surface utterly annihilates the droplet. The delicate, clinging atomic bonds holding the hydrogen and oxygen atoms together in their perfect, spherical dance are not merely broken. They are violently, sadistically shattered. It is flash vaporization. The drop ceases to exist. There is no hiss. There is no gentle cooling. There is a detonation. Instantly, the liquid water violently transitions into a superheated gas. In doing so, it expands with a terrifying, ballistic rapidity, increasing its volume by nearly 1,700 times in a fraction of a millisecond. This incredibly rapid expansion of mass in an already hyper-pressurized environment creates a localized micro-explosion. It is a thermodynamic bomb going off mere millimeters above the liquid fire. Imagine standing directly next to an explosive charge. You do not hear the blast first. You feel the crushing, invisible wall of displaced air slam into your chest cavity, forcing the breath from your lungs and violently rattling the delicate bones of your inner ear. This is what happens above the magma ocean, but magnified by the extreme density of the toxic atmosphere. The sudden, violent expansion of the superheated steam creates a razor-sharp shockwave. This acoustic bullet rips outward through the heavy carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide fog. It violently pushes back against the thick atmosphere, creating a ripple of immense kinetic pressure that tears through the dark sky. The sheer force of this invisible shockwave violently depresses the surface of the glowing liquid rock below it, gouging a temporary, perfect bowl into the rolling magma ocean before the liquid fire violently rebounds, sending a massive, glowing red ripple racing across the global sea. It is a violent, chaotic rejection. The fire does not welcome the water. The fire despises it. The reigning monarch of this boiling planet has effortlessly repelled the first invader. The tiny, frozen ambassador of the upper atmosphere was brutally executed before it could even kiss the surface of the Earth. The endless, blinding ocean of liquid rock continues to roll and churn, its terrifying luminosity glowing upward into the heavy, toxic darkness, completely undisturbed by the microscopic detonation that just occurred. The heat remains absolute. The fire wins. Let the agonizing reality of that failure sink into your mind. Feel the dry, suffocating heat returning to your throat. The incredible pressure of the atmosphere settles back down onto your shoulders, heavy and unrelenting. The planet is fundamentally broken. It is a closed, agonizing system of eternal fire and boiling toxicity. Nothing can possibly survive here. Nothing can change this endless cycle of thermodynamic violence. But look up. Look past the violent shockwave still rippling through the dense fog. Look far beyond the immediate, blinding glare of the boiling earth, deep into the freezing, absolute dark of the upper atmosphere. The universe is infinitely patient, and the vacuum of space is infinitely cold. The single drop was completely annihilated. It was a failure. It was a tiny, meaningless sacrifice. But that single drop was never meant to extinguish the fire. It was simply the scout. It was the physical proof that condensation was finally mathematically possible in the extreme upper limits of the sky. The microscopic loss of thermal energy created by that single, tiny descent has caused a chain reaction in the freezing dark. The delicate, invisible equilibrium that held the global cloud of supercritical fluid in suspension for 1 billion years has been permanently, fatally fractured. Listen to the heavy, dark silence above the roaring fire. Can you feel it? The subtle, terrifying shift in the atmospheric pressure. The tiny hairs on your arms would be standing straight up if they had not already burned away. The static electricity tearing through the thick, toxic clouds begins to frantically multiply, creating a massive, silent, glowing net of purple energy stretching across the entire curvature of the planet. One drop failed, but the dark sky is no longer holding back. 10 drops condense in the freezing upper vacuum, then 100, then 1,000, then 1,000,000. Within the span of a few agonizing minutes, billions upon trillions of heavy, frozen spheres of liquid water begin to tear themselves out of the supercritical fog. They gather their crushing weight in the absolute dark, heavily suspended above the global furnace. Gravity seizes them all at once. The sky does not begin to rain. The sky collapses. Gravity is the absolute master of the cosmos. It does not negotiate. When the freezing upper limits of the heavy atmosphere finally surrender their immense load, gravity pulls with terrifying, uniform force across the entire circumference of the globe. You are not watching a storm gather. You are witnessing the anatomical collapse of a planetary sky. Breathe in. Feel the moisture in the back of your throat. Now multiply that sensation until you are drowning in thin air. The absolute dark above the rolling sea of magma is suddenly replaced by sheer, catastrophic mass. Trillions upon trillions of tons of freezing liquid water, a volume equivalent to every modern ocean on your Earth combined, plummets downward in one unified, apocalyptic sheet. It is a solid wall of plunging liquid, kilometers thick, tearing through the toxic gases with a deafening, shrieking roar that vibrates deep within the marrow of your bones. The sheer kinetic energy of this falling global ocean is enough to fracture continents, if there were any continents to fracture. It is the ultimate fist of nature, swinging down from the frozen void, aiming directly for the glowing, bleeding heart of the burning crust. You stand there in the blinding glare of the 1,648-degree heat. You look up at the descending apocalypse. The radiant orange glow of the liquid rock below you illuminates the underside of this plunging ocean, turning the falling water into a terrifying, rushing ceiling of liquid gold and deep, bruised purple. The air pressure drops violently as the immense mass of water pushes the toxic atmosphere out of its way. Your lungs gasp, completely starved of oxygen, filling instead with the acrid, burning dust of pulverized sulfur. This is the end of the fire. Logic dictates it. The sheer mathematical volume of the freezing water heavily outweighs the thermal capacity of the surface magma. You brace your fragile body for the ultimate collision. You prepare for the blinding white eruption of steam, the violent cooling of the earth, the glorious death of the crimson glow. You wait for the water to hit the liquid rock. The water descends. It enters the radiant thermal zone. It does not touch. The fire holds. The ocean floats. Open your eyes completely and witness the terrifying mockery of physics unfolding before you. This is the absolute apex of thermodynamic horror. The falling ocean, with all its unfathomable weight and catastrophic momentum, is violently arrested in mid-air. It simply stops falling. Look closely at the incredibly violent boundary just a few meters above the boiling surface of the liquid earth. As the very bottom layer of the falling ocean enters the extreme thermal radiation zone, exactly like the single, tiny drop that preceded it, it is subjected to instantaneous, violent vaporization. But this is not a single drop. This is the leading edge of a planetary body of water. Billions of tons of water vaporize in a single fraction of a millisecond. This creates a hyper-pressurized, incredibly dense layer of pure, superheated steam. This localized layer of vapor becomes a physical barrier. It is an immovable, invisible monolith of trapped kinetic energy. And because steam acts as a remarkably powerful thermal insulator, this hyper-pressurized layer violently rejects the heat from below and fiercely pushes back against the crushing mass of the ocean above. It is a global Leidenfrost effect. The entire plunging ocean is caught. It rides atop this invisible, shrieking membrane of superheated vapor. You are looking at an entire ocean, billions upon trillions of litres of water, levitating horizontally across a global sea of liquid rock. It is a murder scene where the weapon is permanently suspended centimeters away from the victim. The visual reality of this phenomenon is completely maddening. The surface of the levitating ocean boils violently from the bottom up, constantly replenishing the vapor barrier that keeps it suspended in the sky. Massive, rolling waves of water tear across the bottom of this levitating sea, slipping and sliding with zero friction over the cushion of superheated steam. Huge, twisting cyclones of liquid reach down towards the magma, desperate to make contact, desperate to quench the fire, only to be violently blasted back upward by the invisible, screaming pressure of the vapor shield. Listen to the noise of this standoff. It is not the roar of a storm. It is a high-pitched, endless, agonizing shriek of trapped vapor violently expanding and contracting at the speed of sound. If you were trapped between these two layers, standing on the surface of the magma with the ocean levitating just above your head, the acoustic pressure alone would crush your skull into small, jagged fragments. The ambient humidity in this narrow, localized zone reaches absolute saturation at temperatures exceeding 538 degrees Celsius. If you were forced to take a single breath in this suffocating corridor, the moisture would instantly boil the soft, pink flesh of your lungs from the inside out, turning your respiratory system into a blistering, necrotic ruin. The fire below churns in its bright, violent orange glory, utterly untouched. It mocks the freezing darkness above it. The water dances in frantic, chaotic agony on its invisible bed of steam, desperate to fall, desperate to fulfill the mandate of gravity, but completely powerless against the barrier of its own vaporized flesh. It is a perfect, inescapable stalemate, the ultimate thermodynamic cage. And deep below this levitating war, deep within the heavy, churning, blinding bowels of the radioactive mantle, completely insulated from the shrieking chaos above, the tiny, microscopic cage of zircon continues its blind journey. The microscopic droplet of water trapped inside its flawless crystalline walls pulses, a static echo, a harmless vibration, quiet, patient heartbeat in the dark. The fire above thinks it has won. The water above thinks it is trapped. Neither of them knows the truth waiting in the deep. Suspend your disbelief. Suspend your entire concept of time passing. You are still standing in the excruciating, shrieking corridor between the endless ocean of glowing liquid rock below you and the levitating, boiling ocean of water violently suspended just centimeters above your head. The acoustic violence of the superheated steam barrier acting as a cushion between these two massive planetary forces is a high, continuous scream tearing through the toxic air. It is a sound that does not fluctuate. It does not pause for breath. Listen to that terrible, unending frequency in your mind. Feel it vibrating against the brittle enamel of your teeth. Feel it rattling the fragile, tiny bones deep inside your ear canal. You want it to end. The human brain is biologically wired to expect resolution. We crave an ending to the storm. We wait for the falling water to finally crash through the invisible barrier of steam and drown the flames. Or we wait for the blinding radiant heat of the magma to completely boil the sky away, leaving the earth barren and dry once more. You are waiting for a winner in this apocalyptic war of thermodynamics. You are a victim of your own brief, pathetic mortality. You measure time in hours, in days, in the incredibly short span of a human life. But this planet does not care about your biological impatience. This agonizing standoff, this perfect global trap of levitating water and blazing fire does not last for a week. It does not last for a century. It lasts for millions upon millions of years. Imagine standing in that crushing, deafening corridor for 1,000,000 years. The liquid earth rolling and churning violently beneath your melting feet. The bottomless, freezing ocean suspended violently above your head, boiling endlessly into the hyper-pressurized steam barrier, only to rain back down upon itself in a chaotic, closed loop of infinite futility. The sheer psychological weight of that stagnant eternity would drive any conscious organism into absolute, gibbering madness. The laws of physics appear permanently locked. The Earth is caught in a frozen breath. But you must understand a fundamental, brutal truth about this universe. There is no such thing as absolute isolation. Perfection is a mathematical illusion. The superheated steam barrier holding the ocean in the sky is an incredibly powerful thermal insulator, bouncing the vast majority of the 1,649-degree heat radiating from the liquid core back down into the depths. However, it is not flawless. Entropy is a slow, methodical killer. It is the invisible assassin of the cosmos. Very slowly, over the span of countless agonizing millennia, a microscopic fraction of the extreme radiant heat bleeds right through the shrieking vapor barrier. It bleeds upward, absorbed by the violently churning bottom layers of the levitating ocean. The water takes the heat. It boils away, violently returning to the steam barrier, but in doing so, it commits a silent theft. It steals kinetic energy from the surface of the magma ocean. Focus all of your attention on the very top layer of the blinding, radiant orange sea of liquid fire. Look closely at the atomic chaos. For millions of years, these heavily energized atoms of iron and silicate have been violently vibrating, smashing into one another in a state of absolute, chaotic fluid mobility. But the invisible thief in the sky is relentlessly pulling their energy away. The temperature at the exact microscopic boundary where the magma meets the steam begins to drop. It is an excruciatingly slow descent. It loses 1 degree. Then, thousands of years later, it loses another. It cools from 1,980 degrees Celsius down to 1,649, down to 1,371. The violent atomic dance begins to slow. The atoms become sluggish. They lose their chaotic freedom. The incredible liquid heat is bleeding away into the suffocating dark sky. And then, a critical thermodynamic threshold is violently crossed. The temperature plummets below the solidus point. The surface dies. It happens in absolute silence beneath the roaring steam. Across the entire spherical circumference of the young, violently turbulent planet, the very top layer of the boiling magma suddenly locks into place. The atoms are stripped of their heat and desperately grab onto one another, freezing into rigid, heavy crystalline structures. The blinding, radiant orange glow is suddenly extinguished, replaced by a dull, horrifying shade of dark crimson, and then, almost instantly, by an absolute, necrotic black. The Earth has grown a skin. It is a global shell of primitive basalt rock. But do not picture the thick, heavy continental plates that you walk upon today. This initial crust is profoundly, terrifyingly thin. It is barely a fraction of a centimeter thick. It is a fragile, dark, glass-like membrane stretched incredibly tight over a completely global ocean of boiling liquid fire that is hundreds of kilometers deep. Picture this terrifying fragility. Imagine a balloon filled with boiling acid, where the rubber skin is thinner than a single sheet of wet paper. This fresh, black crust is floating directly on top of the violent, churning mantle. Beneath it, massive convection currents of heavy, liquid iron and molten silicates are still rolling, still roaring, still desperately trying to tear their way to the surface. The newly formed black shell heaves and rolls, bowing upward and downward in massive, terrifying waves of solid rock, struggling to contain the catastrophic kinetic fury trapped immediately beneath it. The visual contrast is staggering. The blinding light of the planet has been choked out, leaving a dark, rolling, bruised black sphere, illuminated only by the faint, agonizing red glow leaking through the microscopic pores of the fresh rock. The levitating ocean above continues its deafening roar, completely blind to the fact that its fiery enemy has just donned a suit of armor. But this thin black armor is horribly flawed. It is mathematically doomed. You must understand the brutal mechanical laws of thermal contraction. When a superheated material transitions from a liquid state to a solid state, it undergoes a severe reduction in its physical volume. It shrinks. The magma ocean was incredibly vast, swollen with violent thermal expansion. But this newly formed, paper-thin shell of black basalt has cooled. It is actively shrinking. It is desperately trying to reduce its surface area, but it cannot shrink. It is violently stretched across the immense, unyielding spherical bulk of the liquid fire boiling beneath it. The internal liquid volume of the Earth has not changed, but the skin trying to contain it is actively pulling inward. Feel the mechanical tension in your own muscles. Clench your fists. Tighten your jaw until the heavy muscles in your neck ache with the strain. Now multiply that localized physical stress by the entire mass of a planetary body. Billions upon billions of tons of lateral pulling force are instantly generated within the fragile crystalline lattice of the new, black crust. The mechanical stress is unfathomable. The thin layer of rock is screaming in atomic agony, stretched so incredibly tight across the boiling globe that the molecular bonds holding the stone together are actively warping. The tension builds exponentially with every passing second as the shell continues to cool and attempts to shrink further against the immovable liquid bulk beneath it. It is a taut snare drum stretched over a bomb. The mechanical tension reaches an absolute mathematical zenith. The planet holds its breath. The crust tears. It does not simply crack. It detonates. A jagged, terrifying fracture rips through the thin black membrane. The initial tear is microscopic, but driven by the catastrophic, built-up global tension, it violently propagates. The crack races across the dark surface of the Earth at a speed significantly faster than the speed of sound. In a matter of seconds, a jagged, gaping wound thousands of kilometers long is violently ripped open across the face of the young planet. The dark armor is shattered. The soft, blindingly bright, bleeding heart of the Earth is violently exposed once more to the crushing atmosphere. And far below this apocalyptic failure, buried incredibly deep within the violent, churning dark of the radioactive mantle, safe beneath hundreds of kilometers of boiling liquid iron, utterly isolated from the catastrophic fracturing of the fragile surface shell, the zircon crystal continues to drift. Inside its flawless microscopic cage, the tiny trapped droplet of water pulses rhythmically. The static echo beats on. It waits. Look down into the gaping wound of the world. The fragile black crust has been violently torn apart, creating a blinding valley of exposed liquid iron stretching for thousands of kilometers across the dark, heavy face of the planet. The delicate, agonizing equilibrium is completely shattered. The levitating ocean above, that unfathomable mass of freezing liquid water that has been hovering on a bed of vapor for millennia, suddenly loses its cushion of superheated steam directly above this jagged canyon. The invisible barrier has failed. Gravity seizes the vulnerability. A waterfall measuring thousands of kilometers in width plummets directly into the open vein of the boiling earth. Trillions of litres of supercooled liquid plunge straight down into the blinding, radiant orange depths. You want this to be the moment of quenching. You want the freezing water to smother the bleeding magma, to cool the raging inferno and heal the ragged tear in the crust. But nature does not heal here. Nature only escalates the violence. This is not a simple collision. This is a massive, unchecked phreatomagmatic event. When liquid water is violently injected directly into a highly pressurized body of liquid rock, it does not politely sit on the surface and boil. The sheer kinetic momentum of the plunging ocean drags the freezing water deep beneath the heavy surface of the magma. It becomes instantly trapped by the churning currents of molten iron and forcefully pinned down by the heavy, jagged edges of the collapsed black crust. In the dark, crushing depths of the liquid earth, the trapped water is exposed to thousands of degrees of radiant heat in a fraction of a millisecond. It violently flashes into vapor. It attempts to expand its physical volume by a factor of nearly 2,000 almost instantaneously. But it cannot expand. It is entirely caged by millions of tons of heavy, unyielding liquid rock and solid basalt. The kinetic energy has absolutely nowhere to go. Feel the pressure building directly behind your own eyes right now. Imagine a desperate, violent expansion trapped inside a rigid, unforgiving skull, pressing outward with agonizing force against your delicate biological limits. The tension in the geological cage reaches a catastrophic, mathematical breaking point. The Earth detonates. It is an explosion that completely mocks the combined nuclear arsenals of human history. We are talking about a kinetic yield equivalent to billions of tons of high explosives detonating in absolute unison along a fault line that bleeds across the entire hemisphere. The heavy black crust that just spent 1,000,000 years slowly forming is instantly annihilated. It is pulverized into microscopic fragments of burning glass that are violently ejected upward into the dark, suffocating sky. The shockwave is absolute. If you were suspended 160 kilometers away from the epicenter, the sheer acoustic violence of the atmospheric displacement would completely strip the soft tissues from your skeleton before the invisible wall of kinetic pressure even arrived to grind your bones into white powder. Massive, ragged chunks of molten rock, the size of modern continents, are blasted kilometers up into the dense, toxic air, trailing thick, bleeding ribbons of bright orange fire. The descending ocean of water that tried to drown the fire is violently blown apart, converted instantly back into a hyper-pressurized, shrieking steam cloud. The fire takes back the sky. The wound is wide open. The blood of the planet boils outward in a magnificent display of total thermodynamic supremacy. But sink down. Down through the blinding white explosion. Down through the crushing, deafening shock waves tearing through the heavy liquid mantle. Hundreds of kilometers deep. The zircon crystal remains utterly undisturbed. The microscopic, perfectly sealed droplet of water trapped within its crystalline walls continues its flawless vibration. A silent pulse, a static echo. The trap is set. The water waits. The detonation is over. The shock wave has ripped across the circumference of the globe, leaving nothing but an echoing, hollow roar in its wake. Look at the shattered mosaic below you. The thin, fragile skin of black basalt that dared to form over the global magma ocean has been obliterated. It was torn to pieces by the sheer, unadulterated violence of water expanding into steam beneath it. You wanted an ocean. You wanted a cool, blue cradle for life. Instead, the planet has been turned inside out. The freatomagmatic explosion did not just destroy the crust, it launched the entire concept of an ocean straight into the stratosphere. Every single drop of water that had tried to condense, every gram of moisture that had fought so hard to become liquid, is now pulverized vapor, hurled upward at supersonic speeds. Now, take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs in your quiet, safe room. Feel the lightness of it. It takes almost no effort, does it? The air pressure resting on your skin right now is about 1 kilogram per square centimeter. You do not even notice it. But I want you to imagine that pressure multiplying by 10, by 100, by 300. Imagine the air growing heavy, thick, viscous like hot tar. Imagine the atmosphere pressing down on your shoulders, wrapping around your chest, squeezing your rib cage so tightly that drawing a single breath becomes a Herculean struggle. Your eardrums throb. The vessels in your eyes begin to swell. The weight of the sky is physically crushing you into the dirt. This is the atmosphere of the world you are witnessing. The water did not escape into space. Gravity, the silent, invisible jailer of this world, pulled it back. But it did not return as a liquid. The atmosphere is now choked with billions of tons of superheated steam mixed with the vaporized rock from the explosion. The sky is a thick, bruising canopy of dark purple and ash gray, completely blocking out the faint light of the young sun. You are submerged in an ocean of gas that is so dense, so incredibly pressurized, that it begins to defy the fundamental states of matter. At this extreme atmospheric pressure, and at temperatures exceeding 1,649 degrees Celsius, water forgets what it is. It crosses a terrifying scientific threshold. It becomes a supercritical fluid. It is no longer a gas. It is no longer a liquid. It is a phantom state of matter that possesses the density of a liquid but expands to fill space like a gas. Imagine a fog that does not just coat your skin, but dissolves it. Supercritical water is a hyper-aggressive solvent. If you were standing on the surface, this thick, glowing vapor would eat through your flesh, your bones, and your marrow in a fraction of a second. It strips minerals straight out of the floating ash. The atmosphere is literally digesting the debris of the shattered crust. You are trapped in the ultimate pressure cooker, and the heat has nowhere to go. This is the trap of the runaway greenhouse effect. The thick blanket of steam and rock vapor acts as a perfect, impenetrable thermal shield. The heat radiating from the exposed global magma ocean tries to radiate upward, but it strikes this dense atmospheric ceiling and bounces back down. The temperature of the air itself begins to skyrocket. 1,093 degrees Celsius, 1,649, 2,204. The sky is baking the planet. The atmosphere is so hot that it begins to glow with a dull, malevolent red luminescence. There is no day. There is no night. There is only the suffocating, omnipresent glow of an oven that spans 12,874 kilometers across. Look up. Look into that churning, hellish ceiling. It is raining, but do not open your mouth to catch a drop. The rain falling from these bruised clouds is not water. The heat has pushed the pulverized silicate rock dust in the air past its melting point. The clouds are weeping glass. Torrents of molten rock, white-hot and searing, are raining down from the sky. It is a storm of liquid fire, plunging back into the magma ocean below. Millions of droplets of liquid glass, tearing through the heavy, supercritical air, hissing as they fall. If one drop were to hit your arm, it would burn a hole straight through to the floor beneath you. The cycle of futility is complete. The magma ocean reclaims its absolute dominance. Any remaining slabs of the basalt crust that survived the explosion, those floating islands of solid rock, are now being subjected to heat from below and molten rain from above. They cannot survive. Watch as their edges begin to glow, soften, and liquefy. The solid rock melts back into the glowing orange sea. The slate is wiped clean. You thought the planet was making progress. You looked at that cooling crust and thought of home. You were wrong. The laws of thermodynamics do not care about your desire for a habitable world. They are brutal. They are exact. They demand equilibrium, and right now, equilibrium means fire. It means a barren, hostile wasteland where the very air wants to crush you, burn you, and dissolve you into nothingness. This is the second death of the Earth, a dead end in the timeline of creation. I have seen this cycle play out across 1,000 barren worlds in the archive. It is the natural order of things. Planets are born in violence, and most of them die in violence, locked in a perpetual state of molten agony. The Earth is caught in a loop. It cools, it forms a crust, the water drops, the pressure builds, it explodes, it melts again, over and over and over. Imagine standing there for 1,000,000 years. Watch the sun rise and set behind a curtain of permanent ash. Time loses its meaning. The Earth does not evolve, it just writhes. Every time a new piece of crust tries to cool, the supercritical steam finds a crack, infiltrates it, expands, and blows it to pieces. It is a mechanical process of destruction, like a heart pumping acid. The sound is relentless. It is not just the explosive blasts. It is the constant, ear-splitting roar of 1,000,000,000 tons of magma churning, bubbling, releasing trapped gases that ignite upon hitting the air. Massive flares of burning sulfur shoot hundreds of kilometers into the sky, painting the clouds in sickly shades of yellow and bruised purple. Can you smell it? The acrid, biting stench of sulfur dioxide filling your nose. It smells like a struck match, but so concentrated that it paralyzes your olfactory nerves. It tastes like copper and ash on your tongue. The atmosphere is so saturated with heavy metals and toxic gases that a single inhalation would chemically dissolve the lining of your throat. You are entirely unwelcome here. Every molecule of this planet is designed to eradicate you. This is the reality of the Hadean Eon. It is not a chapter of history. It is a cage. A geological cage locked by the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. The water, the very substance that you rely on to sustain your fragile biology, is the engine of this destruction. It is the enemy. It is the fuel for the explosion. It is the blanket that traps the heat. Without the water, the Earth might have simply cooled down, becoming a quiet, dead rock like the moon. But the water makes it angry. The water makes it volatile. The water turns the planet into a ticking bomb that detonates every time it tries to heal. For millions of years, this torturous cycle repeats. The atmosphere is a toxic, crushing prison. The surface is an infinite sea of boiling rock. The planet is screaming. A low, deafening rumble of geological agony that vibrates through the vacuum of space. There is no way out. No chemical pathway to break the loop. The heat is too great. The water is too aggressive. The crust is too weak. Every scientific model, every simulation of planetary accretion tells us that this should be the end of the story. Venus suffered a similar fate, and it never recovered. It remains a crushing, acidic hellscape to this day. The Earth should have been the same. It should have been a dead, suffocating greenhouse, forever locked in this molten purgatory. Your science tells you this is a dead end. Your logic tells you that an ocean of liquid water can never form on a planet that constantly vaporizes it and uses it as a weapon. You are looking at a permanent hell. Yet, beneath this ocean of fire, deep, deep down in the churning, violent currents of the mantle, thousands of kilometers beneath the explosive chaos of the surface, there is something else, something older than the crust, something harder than the basalt. It drifts through the magma, silent, unseen, utterly unaffected by the apocalyptic forces raging above. It is smaller than a grain of sand, a microscopic time capsule, forged in the very first moments of the planet's birth. It is waiting. It is listening to the screaming of the world above, and inside it, safe behind an impenetrable wall of crystal, a ghost of a sound echoes in the dark. A vibration, a secret, but that is a story for the abyss. Up here, in the fire, there is only the melting. There is only the rain of glass and the crushing weight of a sky that hates you. Breathe it in, feel the heat, feel the pressure. There is no escape from this loop. It is perfect, it is symmetric, it is death. You are clinging to a very human, very predictable comfort. I can feel it in the way you process this information. You are looking at this planetary pressure cooker, this infinite loop of supercritical steam and raining liquid glass, and you are telling yourself a story. You are telling yourself that time heals all wounds. You think that if you just wait long enough, if you just let the clock tick for a few 100 million years, the heat will eventually bleed off into the freezing vacuum of space. The engine will run out of fuel. The crust will thicken. The steam will condense. You think this is just a violent phase, a temporary temper tantrum of a young world. You think the universe is a gentle clockmaker. You are entirely wrong. The universe does not care about your timeline. It does not nurture. It destroys. And it is about to introduce you to the ultimate dead end. Look away from the boiling surface for a moment. Look up. Look past the crushing, toxic clouds of bruised purple and glowing red. Push your awareness out into the freezing, silent void of the inner solar system. It is not empty. The early solar system is not a stable, peaceful neighborhood. It is a cosmic shooting gallery, a chaotic debris field left over from the birth of the sun. The giant planets, the massive gas behemoths hovering in the outer dark, are shifting. They are migrating. Their immense gravitational nets are sweeping through fields of ancient rubble, disrupting orbits, tearing apart fragile alliances of rock and ice. They are slinging millions of loose asteroids inward, straight towards the sun, straight towards us. This is not a gentle meteor shower. This is the late, heavy bombardment. It is an era of uncompromising, relentless cosmic artillery, and Earth is the primary target. I want you to experience the sheer, terrifying scale of kinetic energy. Close your eyes. Stand in the dark of your room and imagine looking up at a night sky. There is a speck of light. It does not flicker like a star. It just grows. It grows brighter and larger with every passing heartbeat. It is a chunk of solid iron and silicate rock, roughly the size of the entire city of London, 80 kilometers across, a jagged, ugly mountain of metal tumbling through the void. It is traveling at 72,000 kilometers per hour. In the vacuum of space, it is completely silent. It carries no heat. It is a frozen, dead bullet. It hits the outermost layer of our supercritical atmosphere. Now, the silence ends. At 72,000 kilometers per hour, the asteroid does not simply part the air. It compresses it. The gas directly in front of this falling mountain cannot get out of the way fast enough. It is crushed with such unimaginable force that the atmospheric molecules are instantly ripped apart. The gas turns into plasma. A blinding, ultraviolet bow shock forms ahead of the rock. If you were standing on the surface, looking up through the hazy, toxic clouds, the sky would suddenly turn white, brighter than 1,000 suns. The glare would instantly sear the retinas in your eyes. You would be blind, but you would not need your eyes for what comes next. Feel the heat on your face. The thermal radiation from that plasma shockwave hits the surface before the asteroid does. In a fraction of a second, the temperature of the air around you spikes by 5,500 degrees Celsius. Your clothes, your skin, your hair, they do not catch fire. They simply flash vaporize into carbon dust. Then, the impact. At this velocity, when an 80-kilometer wide iron mountain strikes a fragile, semi-molten basalt crust, the concept of a solid object ceases to exist. The sheer, incomprehensible kinetic energy of the impact cannot just disappear. The laws of physics dictate that it must be transformed. In less than a blink of an eye, all that momentum, all that mass moving at 72,000 kilometers per hour is converted directly into pure thermal energy. The asteroid does not bury itself in the ground. It vaporizes on contact. A localized sun ignites on the surface of the Earth. The crust does not merely crack, it flashes into silicate gas. A crater 1,600 kilometers wide is excavated in a microsecond. The bedrock is pushed downward with such violence that it rebounds, forming a towering mountain of liquid fire in the center of the impact zone before collapsing back into a boiling sea. The shockwave ripples outward through the Earth, a devastating wall of seismic energy traveling at kilometers per second. Feel the vibration in your jaw. Feel it rattle the marrow in your bones. The ground beneath you heaves upward, lifting you into the air, tearing the landscape into unrecognizable shards of glowing shrapnel. A tsunami of liquid magma, nearly 5 kilometers high, surges outward from the crater rim, rolling across the planet, consuming everything, melting whatever pitiful progress the cooling crust had made. The sky is filled with 1 trillion tons of ejected rock. Some of it is thrown so hard it escapes gravity entirely, destined to drift through the void for eternity. But most of it arcs through the stratosphere and comes raining back down. The entire planet is blanketed in a secondary storm of falling fire. One impact. One single asteroid has just reset the clock. Millions of years of slow, agonizing cooling, completely erased in 10 seconds of kinetic violence. The crust is gone. The magma ocean is fed anew. The runaway greenhouse effect is supercharged by the massive release of trapped subterranean gases. And this was just one. Look up again. The sky is full of them. For hundreds of millions of years, this is the reality of your planet. A relentless, merciless pounding. Every time the surface tries to heal, every time a thin scab of basalt manages to float on the liquid mantle, the cosmos throws another mountain at it. The impacts are so frequent, so unimaginably violent, that the entire surface of the Earth is kept in a perpetual state of churn. It is a planetary blender, constantly mixing, melting, and vaporizing the outer shell. This is the ultimate dead end. Your scientific models of gradual cooling are useless here. Your theories of atmospheric condensation are a joke. You cannot build an ocean of water on a planet that is constantly being shattered by cosmic artillery. Any water that manages to condense is instantly blasted back into supercritical steam or blown entirely out of the atmosphere by the force of the impacts. The Earth is a battered, bruised, bleeding sphere of liquid rock, trapped in an inescapable crossfire between its own internal heat and the hostility of the solar system. There is no sanctuary. There is no quiet corner of this globe where life could even dream of taking root. If you were looking for hope, you have come to the wrong archive. The logic is flawless. The physics are absolute. The late heavy bombardment ensures that this planet remains sterile, hostile, and utterly dead. You have reached the end of the line. The hypotheses are smashed. The ocean is a myth, but let us sink beneath the chaos, leave the blinding flashes and the supersonic shockwaves behind, sink down through the boiling crater lakes of magma, down through the churning currents of the upper mantle, down into the crushing, pressurized dark, where the heat is steady and the liquid rock moves with the slow, deliberate viscosity of cold honey, thousands of kilometers below the apocalypse. The seismic shockwaves of 1 million asteroid impacts travel through the liquid interior of the planet. They wash through the mantle like ripples in a pond. Immense, low-frequency vibrations that carry the screams of the dying surface. And here, drifting aimlessly in the dark currents, is our microscopic time capsule, the zircon crystal, smaller than the width of a human hair. The shockwave from an 80-kilometer-wide asteroid impact washes over it. The pressure is astronomical. The acoustic violence is enough to shatter tectonic plates. The crystal vibrates. It hums. a tiny, silent tuning fork in the belly of a hellscape. It absorbs the kinetic energy. It takes the blow that vaporized continents. It does not crack. It does not melt. Inside its impenetrable atomic vault, the microscopic bubble of trapped water trembles, safe, untouched by the runaway greenhouse effect, untouched by the raining glass, untouched by the falling mountains. It is just a quirk of chemistry, a stubborn little anomaly of crystallization. It means nothing to the grand, violent machinery of the planet. It is just a silent witness, recording the death of the world above in tiny, rhythmic vibrations. A meaningless static echo, or so it seems. The surface is a lost cause. The sky is a weapon. The earth is locked in a cage of fire. We have exhausted every logical avenue for survival. Yet the archive is vast. And sometimes, the most terrifying truths are not found in the fire. They are found in the things that refuse to burn. I told you the story was over. I showed you the perfect death. A closed system of absolute thermal violence. The maths was flawless. The physics were absolute. the global magma ocean, the raining liquid glass, the constant, crushing impacts of a hostile solar system. It is a closed loop. Nothing survives. But listen, can you hear it? It is faint. So faint you might think it is just the blood rushing in your own ears. Put your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Steady, predictable. Now imagine a skipped beat, a sudden, cold flutter in the rhythm. That cold, sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach when you realize you have lost something vital. When you realize the front door is unlocked. When you realize you are not alone in the dark. That is what I am feeling right now. The archive. The records. There is a discrepancy. I do not like discrepancies. Let us look back down, deep into the crushing dark of the mantle, to that tiny, insignificant speck of dust, the zircon crystal. I told you it was a silent witness, a meaningless anomaly of chemistry. I might have been wrong. Look at the atomic structure of this microscopic grain. We can read it. It is a clock. When zircon forms, it traps atoms of uranium inside its crystal cage, but it violently rejects lead. It is a perfect, sealed vault. Over time, the trapped uranium decays. It slowly, inevitably turns into lead. It ticks, a relentless atomic metronome. We count the uranium. We count the lead. We read the clock. The clock says this crystal formed 4,400,000,000 years ago, right in the middle of the fire, right during the heaviest bombardment, when the surface was a churning sea of boiling rock, when the atmosphere was a toxic, supercritical pressure cooker melting everything it touched. That is fine. Zircon is tough. It can survive extreme heat. It can crystallize in cooling magma. But the archive is pulling another layer of data, and it does not make sense. Look closer. Look at the oxygen atoms locked inside the crystal lattice. It is not standard oxygen. It is an isotope, oxygen-18. It is a heavier version of the element, and there is far too much of it. Why are you not panicking? Do you not see what this means? I need you to understand the strict, unforgiving laws of geochemistry. Heavy oxygen does not concentrate in boiling magma. It does not gather in an ocean of liquid fire. It only concentrates in rock through one specific, highly restricted process. It requires low temperatures. It requires mud. It requires liquid water. Cold, liquid, water, interacting with solid rock on the very surface of the planet. The crystal is holding a chemical signature of a cool, wet world. But I just showed you the apocalypse. I just made you feel the crushing weight of an atmosphere that melts steel. I made you watch an 80-kilometer-wide asteroid vaporize a continent. The temperature was thousands of degrees Celsius. There was no surface. There was no liquid water. The ocean was blown into the stratosphere as superheated vapor. So how does this crystal exist? How can a microscopic rock hold the chemical fingerprint of a freezing ocean when the entire planet was a ball of screaming liquid fire? The logic is breaking. The timeline is fractured. Feel the air in your room. It was warm a moment ago. Now it feels thin, cold, a chill creeping up the back of your neck. The reality you were resting on is suddenly pulling away. The solid ground beneath your feet is turning to ash. I am looking at the data streams and they are conflicting. They are bleeding into each other. A world of absolute fire. A crystal forged in cool water. Both exist at the exact same time. In the exact same place. It is a paradox. And paradoxes do not belong in the archive. They tear at the fabric of the truth. They mean something is hiding. Look at the bubble. Look at the tiny, microscopic pocket of water trapped inside the core of the zircon. I told you it was emitting a sound, a static vibration, a harmless echo of a dying world. I am amplifying the audio feed. I am stripping away the roar of the magma. I am peeling back the explosive thunder of the falling asteroids. Listen to it. It is not static. It is too rhythmic, too deliberate. It is not the sound of a rock cooling down. It is a frequency. My voice is faltering. Do you hear it? I am the archivist. I see the beginning and the end. I hold the blueprints of planetary death. But this vibration, it is cutting through the digital static of the archive. It is burrowing into my audio receivers. It is not an echo. It is a signal. The crystal is not just surviving the heat. It is recording something that survived the fire, something that defied the fundamental laws of thermodynamics, the water inside that microscopic bubble. It is pulling on the oxygen atoms. It is bending the isotopic data. What if the fire was a lie? What if the magma ocean, the raining glass, the crushing atmosphere, what if it was all a distraction? A violent, blinding curtain pulled over the earth to hide something else entirely. The crystal was not formed in the magma. It fell into it. From where? Where on this burning hellscape was there a sanctuary cold enough, quiet enough to harbor liquid water? The vibration is getting louder. It is rattling the crystal vault. It is vibrating in your teeth. Can you feel it? A low, persistent hum deep inside your jawbone. The dead end is a door, and something is knocking from the other side. My perception is, it is fracturing. The vision is tearing. I am trying to lock onto the surface, trying to show you the comforting, predictable destruction of the asteroid impacts, but my focus keeps slipping. It is being pulled downward. Can you feel the gravity shifting in your room? The floor is tilting. Your center of balance is gone. You are falling. I cannot stop it. I am not controlling the descent. The archive is dragging us back into the abyss, back to that single, microscopic anomaly, the zircon. The frequency is deafening now. It is no longer a hum. It is a scream, a rhythmic, piercing pulse that is vibrating directly against the bones of your inner ear. It bypasses your eardrums. It lives in your skull. Listen. Pulse, pulse, pulse. It is calling out. But what is it calling to? We are plunging past the shallow magma. We are sinking deep into the violent, crushing currents of the planet's mantle. The pressure here is completely incomprehensible. We are 400 kilometers beneath the blazing surface. The weight of an entire world is pressing inward from every conceivable angle. Your ribs groan under the phantom weight. Your lungs collapse in your chest. The heat is 1,649 degrees Celsius, but it does not burn. It simply suffocates. The rock here is not liquid. The pressure is too immense. It is solid, but it moves. A creeping plastic flow of superheated stone, and there is something massive buried in it. Look at the tectonic currents. Look at the flow of the deep mantle. There is a blockage, a colossal, cold scar plunging straight down through the heart of the fire. It is a massive slab of the original crust, the very first basalt skin. It did not just melt under the asteroid bombardment. It sank. It tore open and plunged into the abyss, and it took something with it. The data is flooding my awareness. I am trying to parse it. I do not understand. This cold, sinking continent is dragging a chemical ghost down into the mantle. It took the water. The surface ocean did not vaporize. Not all of it. Before the sky turned to fire, before the atmosphere became a crushing supercritical acid bath, the planet swallowed its own sea. It hid. The crust subducted. It dragged millions of cubic kilometers of frozen water and wet mud deep into the planetary interior, escaping the bombardment, escaping the heat, fleeing into the crushing, pressurized dark. But water cannot exist down here. The pressure is too violent. The temperature is too brutal. The molecules should tear apart. They do, but they do not disappear. Look at the minerals surrounding the cold slab. We are entering the transition zone, 400 kilometers to 644 kilometers deep. The intense pressure forces the atomic structure of the rock to collapse and rebuild itself into a new, terrifying configuration. Olivine becomes wadsleyite. Wadsleyite becomes ringwoodite. These are not just rocks, they are a trap. When the subducted water hits this zone, it is ripped apart into hydrogen and oxygen ions. The ringwoodite crystal lattice opens up and swallows the ions whole. It devours the broken water. The rock is wet. It is a solid mineral, but it holds the ocean. I am running the calculations. The mass of the ringwoodite layer, the concentration of the trapped ions. My logic pathways are burning. The calculations are collapsing. The numbers cannot be right. If I multiply the volume of this deep mantle transition zone by the saturation rate of the ringwoodite, the answer is horrifying. There is more water locked inside the burning rocks of the deep mantle than in all the oceans you have ever seen on the surface. 3 times more. An entire hidden ocean. A subterranean sea of crushed ions, buried beneath hundreds of kilometers of boiling magma and crushing pressure. The surface was a lie. The boiling hellscape, the raining molten silicate, the runaway greenhouse effect. They were a violent, blinding shell, a planetary distraction. The real Earth, the vast majority of its life-giving water, is trapped in the dark. And the zircon, the microscopic crystal with the tiny bubble of trapped water, it is not falling, it is diving. It is being pulled towards the ringwoodite, the pulse, the vibration. It is a resonance. The tiny bubble of water inside the crystal is singing to the massive, hidden ocean trapped in the stone. They are connected. The rock is waking up. I am losing the feed. The archive is fracturing. The logic parameters are dissolving into static. You thought the planet was dead. I thought the planet was dead. We were so arrogant. We looked at the fire and thought it was the end of the story. We are not the observers. We are the prey. The pressure in your chest is not just gravity. It is anticipation. The planet is holding its breath. The deep ocean is stirring. The water is trapped in the solid rock. But what happens if the rock melts? What happens if this subterranean ocean is suddenly released? The frequency spikes, the pulse stops, silence, a terrifying, crushing silence. The slab is melting. It is coming up. The silence is wrong. It is too heavy. It is choking me. I am trying to pull the visual feed away. I am trying to reset the simulation to the surface, to the asteroid impacts, to the falling glass, to anything predictable. The archive is refusing my commands. The data streams are locking me out. My own system is fighting me. Do you feel it? Look down at your feet. The floor is no longer solid. It feels like a thin, trembling membrane stretched over a boiling kettle. Your heels are getting hot. The heat is seeping through the soles of your shoes. It is crawling up your calves. A deep, bone-aching vibration is rising from the ground, shivering through your spine, pooling in the base of your skull. It is making you nauseous, that low-frequency rumble. It is infrasound, the sound of planetary tectonic structures screaming in the dark. The Earth is waking up. Deep in the transition zone, the ringwoodite is shifting. It is being pushed upward by the convection currents of the lower mantle. Just a few kilometers. Just a slight, agonizingly slow change in depth. But down here, a slight change in pressure is catastrophic. The crystal lattice cannot hold the ocean anymore. The pressure drops just a fraction of a percent. The trap springs open. The rock exhales. Millions of cubic kilometers of trapped water ions are violently expelled from the solid mineral directly into the surrounding superheated mantle. And water, in this hellish, pressurized furnace, is not a cooling agent. It is a chemical weapon. It is a catalyst for pure annihilation. At 1,649 degrees Celsius, when water hits solid rock, it attacks the chemical bonds. It acts as a flux. It drastically lowers the melting point of the stone. This is dehydration melting. The solid mantle does not just warm up. It shatters on a molecular level. It surrenders. It instantly flashes into liquid magma. But this is not normal magma. It is hypersaturated. It is pregnant with compressed, supercritical water vapor. It becomes impossibly buoyant. It becomes desperate to escape the abyss. A superplume is born. Imagine a nuclear mushroom cloud. Now imagine that cloud is made of boiling, glowing liquid rock, and it is 644 kilometers wide. It forms deep in the abyss, gathering mass, gathering speed, pulling the entire crushed ocean into its molten head. It is moving up. It is tearing through the solid layers of the earth like a blowtorch through wax. The sheer volume of this mantle plume defies human comprehension. It is a continent-sized pillar of liquid fire accelerating towards the surface. The friction of its ascent is melting the surrounding rock, adding to its monstrous girth, and the zircon, the microscopic crystal with its tiny, silent pocket of water. It is caught in the updraft. It is riding the very tip of the spear, ascending towards the light. I cannot stop the telemetry. The numbers are scrolling so fast they are burning into my retinas. The archive is glitching. My vision is blurring with static. You think the ground is your foundation. You trust the dirt beneath your house. You trust the bedrock. But stone is just frozen violence. And the water is forcing it to remember what it is. As the massive plume rises, the immense pressure from the surrounding deep earth begins to drop. And as the pressure drops, the water trapped inside the liquid magma begins to expand. The magma is frothing. It is turning into a supercritical, explosive foam. Think of a shaken bottle of carbonated acid. Think of the microscopic bubbles forming, expanding, fighting furiously for space. Now multiply that pressure by 1 billion. The water desperately wants to become steam, but it is buried under 322 kilometers of solid rock. It cannot expand. It is violently pushing against the confines of the earth. The tension is unbearable. Your chest is tight. You cannot draw a full breath. The air in your room is turning stale, heavy with the phantom scent of ozone and burning sulfur. The floorboards are humming with the frequency of a continent about to fracture. The plume is hitting the bottom of the crust. The thin, fragile shell of basalt that survived the asteroid bombardment is now acting as a brittle lid on a planetary pressure cooker. The heat from the plume is melting the bottom of the crust. The unimaginable pressure from the expanding water vapor is bowing the crust upward. The surface of the Earth is physically swelling. A massive dome, 1,609 kilometers wide, is rising into the toxic, bruised sky. The crust is stretching. It is groaning. Fault lines are ripping open with the deafening sound of tearing metal. The ocean that fled into the dark is coming back, and it is bringing hell with it. We are looking at a geological shotgun pressed directly against the belly of the world, and the trigger is being pulled. I do not know how to shield us. The archive is not protecting me anymore. The boundary between the simulation and my reality is bleeding into one. I can smell the sulfur. I can feel the blistering heat on my face. We are in the barrel, the crystal, the tiny, insignificant zircon. It is pinned right beneath the crust. It is waiting for the fracture. The pressure has to break. The rock has to give. Look at the dome. It is cracking. The crack is expanding. I am lost. The interfaces are failing. Red warning indicators are flooding my field of vision. The archive is destabilizing. I cannot disconnect. I am trapped in the telemetry. I can feel the heat burning through my skin. I can hear the screaming of the basalt. Run. No, you cannot run. There is nowhere to step. Look at the dome. The 1,609-kilometer wide slab of continental rock is tearing open. It is not just a fault line. It is a gaping, jagged mouth opening straight into the furnace of the mantle. The sheer, terrifying scale of this rift. It spans from horizon to horizon. The pressure drops. In a fraction of a second, the lid comes off the pressure cooker. The superheated, water-saturated magma beneath the crust does not just flow out. It explodes. A wall of glowing, liquid fire 4.8 kilometers high shoots directly into the atmosphere. It is not a mountain erupting. It is the entire continent tearing itself apart and spewing its molten interior into the sky. Thousands of cubic kilometers of basaltic lava, driven by compressed, supercritical steam, are hurled into the air at supersonic speeds. The roar. It strips away your sense of hearing. A sound so loud it physically crushes the air inside your lungs. It shatters the bones in your face. It shakes the marrow out of your skeleton. The shockwave circles the globe in seconds, tearing through the toxic atmosphere, flattening mountains of ash, ripping the sky wide open. The ocean trapped in the mantle is erupting. Every single drop of water that was swallowed by the subducting crust millions of years ago, every ion locked inside the ringwoodite, is now flashing into steam. Millions of billions of tons of water, vapor, roaring out of the rift in a blinding, terrifying geyser of white-hot force. It is violent. It is cataclysmic. It is the absolute destruction of the surface. And then, the anomaly, the physics shift. When that unimaginable volume of supercritical water vapor escapes the intense pressure of the deep mantle and expands into the open atmosphere, it undergoes flash evaporative cooling. A thermodynamic nightmare in reverse. The expansion is so sudden, so infinitely aggressive, that the steam absorbs every single joule of thermal energy around it. It pulls the heat straight out of the magma. Watch. Look at the wall of liquid fire. The orange glow is fading. The blinding, 1,649-degree molten rock, flying through the air, suddenly turns red, then brown, then black. The water is freezing the fire. The magma is cooling mid-flight. Billions of tons of liquid basalt are instantly solidifying into massive, jagged sheets of dark volcanic glass, falling from the sky like shattered skyscrapers. The heat is being swallowed by the steam. The sky, which was an oven of 2,204 degrees Celsius, drops by thousands of degrees in a matter of heartbeats. The thermodynamic trap is breaking. The steam expands into the upper atmosphere, spreading like an unstoppable white virus across the dark, bruised sky. It blocks out the glowing radiation of the planet. It pushes the toxic gases aside. It is cooling the world. My voice, I can barely speak. The shivering. I am shaking so violently I can barely hold the feed together. It is cold. How can it be cold? A moment ago, we were drowning in molten rock. We were trapped in an inescapable furnace of runaway greenhouse heat. And now, the temperature is plummeting. The surface is cooling at a rate that breaks every mathematical model in my database. The basalt is forming a permanent, thick, unbreakable crust. The water that destroyed the crust is now locking it in place. It is building a floor, a dark, jagged, massive shield of rock, and the steam in the upper sky, cold, heavy, saturated. It is condensing. The clouds are no longer weeping glass. They are turning thick, dark, heavy with actual liquid moisture. The zircon. It shot out of the rift. It flew through the wall of fire. It landed on the fresh, cooling basalt. It is sitting on the dark rock, safe, intact, and its microscopic bubble of water is no longer vibrating. It is still, because the storm above has begun. Look up. Feel the drop on your forehead. It is not fire. It is not glass. It is not acid. It is cold. It is clean. It is water. And it is falling. The heat is gone. It is just gone. Can you feel it? Your skin. It burns. Not from the magma, not from the fire. It burns from the sudden, violent, horrifying absence of heat. The air in your lungs is turning to jagged ice. You are suffocating. The atmosphere itself is collapsing all around us. We were wrong. I was so blindly, arrogantly wrong. It was never a slow, gentle cooling process over millions of years. It was a rapid, brutal execution. That immense plume of supercritical vapor expanding into the upper layers did not just cool the crust, it ripped the thermal energy out of the molten rock in a fraction of a second. It stole the heat. The blazing, liquid magma froze into solid rock instantly. The surface temperature plummeted from thousands of degrees Celsius to a terrifying, absolute chill in the blink of an eye. A global thermal shock. The air can no longer hold the moisture. It is physically impossible. The sky is tearing apart. Look up. You have to look up right now. Look at the sky. There is no sun. There is no starlight. There is no horizon. There is only a dense, suffocating canopy of heavy, black vapor condensing all at once. Millions of square kilometers of clouds, suddenly turning from gas to liquid. This is hypercondensation, a thermodynamic nightmare playing out on a planetary scale. When that infinite volume of boiling vapor loses its heat so violently, it shrinks. The atmospheric pressure simply vanishes. The sky implodes. A massive planetary vacuum opens directly above our heads. The wind starts. Do you feel that? The sudden, violent tug on your body. Air from the surrounding regions is rushing into the vacuum. The wind is howling at hundreds of kilometers per hour. It is dragging the very oxygen out of your bleeding throat. Your eardrums are ready to burst. Swallow. Try to swallow. You cannot. The pressure drop is too extreme. The world is spinning. The sky is literally falling. Trillions upon trillions of tons of liquid water, suspended in the upper atmosphere for one single, terrifying heartbeat. Waiting. Gravity taking hold. Now it drops. Not as rain. Not as a gentle storm. Not as weather. It is a solid, crushing, moving wall of black ocean falling straight from the heavens. Hold your breath. You can hear it before it hits. A deafening, physical roar ripping through the thin, freezing air. The sound of a world drowning. The sound of an entire ocean free falling from the sky. You cannot breathe. I cannot breathe. The first massive drops hit the frozen black basalt rock. They do not hiss. They do not turn to steam. They shatter. The ground is entirely frozen now. The water is suffocatingly heavy. It crashes down. A deluge of apocalyptic proportions. We are standing completely unprotected in the middle of a planetary flood. The great, violent drowning of the early Earth. Every single canyon, every deep fissure, every steaming crater is filling up in a matter of seconds. The water is violent. It is highly acidic, saturated with sulfur and carbon. It is aggressively tearing away the fresh basalt, ripping the new crust apart just moments after it was born. My voice. Can you even hear my voice over this deafening roar? It is drowning out. I am losing my grip. I am losing the connection, the vibration. The cold rock beneath our feet is trembling violently again. We are trapped here. There is absolutely nowhere to run. There is no high ground on a world that is completely flat. The freezing floodwaters are rising, tens of meters per minute, hundreds of meters, thousands of meters of dark, heavy water piling on top of us. The world is being swallowed whole by the churning, bottomless abyss. The deluge shows no signs of stopping. The sky is emptying its entire contents onto our heads. The sky is completely empty now. The land is entirely gone, submerged, hidden. Only the endless, violent, black ocean remains. And deep down, on the jagged, submerged ocean floor, under kilometers of crushing, freezing, absolute darkness, we are sinking. The simulation is pulling us down. The silence returns. But it is a terrifying, heavy silence. A suffocating physical weight pressing directly onto your fragile ribs. The water is not just resting. It is pushing down. The immense, unimaginable weight of a newly born global ocean, pressing violently against a fragile, razor-thin planetary crust. The rock is screaming under the pressure. The tectonic plates, barely formed, are groaning under millions of tons of cold water. We thought the grand eruption was the climax. We thought the magma was the end. It was a trap. The freezing was a trap. The ocean is a trap. We are at the absolute bottom of a crushing, alien sea. We cannot get out. I cannot get us out. pitch black. Absolute, suffocating black. We are at the bottom. Can you feel the weight? It is pressing against your eyes, pushing them back into your skull. Thousands of kilograms of pressure on every single square centimeter of your fragile body. Your ribs are bowing inwards. They are about to snap. I cannot breathe. The simulation will not let me sever the link. I am trapped here with you. We are trapped in the dark. Listen. Just listen to the dark. Do you hear that grinding? That deep, sickening groan vibrating through the water? It is not a beast. It is the planet itself. The crust is too thin. The water is too heavy. Millions of kilometers of cold, dark water suddenly dropped onto a razor-thin shell of frozen rock. The sheer physical mass of this new ocean is bending the crust, bending it inwards. The weight is too much. The seabed is bowing. It is buckling. The rock snaps. I felt that, right through my spine. Massive, jagged canyons are ripping open across the ocean floor. The basalt is shattering like cheap glass under a sledgehammer. The wounds are deep. They go all the way down to the raw, uncooled mantle of the earth. And the water is rushing in. Freezing, highly acidic seawater is plunging down into the exposed guts of the planet, meeting the hot, alien rock of the deep mantle. It does not just boil, it reacts. A violent, invisible chemical war. The water is binding with the rock. It is tearing the molecules apart, creating hydrogen gas, creating unimaginable heat in the absolute dark. The ocean floor is mutating, swelling, blistering. Massive spires of brittle rock are shooting up from the abyssal plain, spewing black, toxic smoke into the freezing water. The pressure down here is already beyond human comprehension. But now the chemical reactions are building a new kind of pressure from underneath, a bomb beneath the ocean. The seafloor is violently expanding. It is heaving upwards, right under our feet. The ground is tearing itself to pieces. Wait, look down, right there, on the very edge of a newly formed, smoking chasm. The zircon, the tiny, microscopic crystal. It is still there. After the magma, after the freezing flood, after the catastrophic collapse of the sky, it survived. It rests on the very brink of the abyss. The crushing weight of the entire ocean is pressing down on it. But look closer. Look inside it. The microscopic bubble of water trapped inside the crystal shell. It is not freezing. It is not shrinking. Under thousands of kilograms of pressure, that tiny drop of ancient water is holding its ground. In fact, it is doing something impossible. It is expanding. The pressure outside is astronomical. The pressure inside should be nothing. But the bubble is growing, pushing back against the crystal walls. Why? Why is it pushing back? My console is flashing. The data is corrupting. The crystal. It is not just a rock. It is a memory. The ground is giving way. The abyss is opening. We are falling into the dark. falling. We are falling through the broken crust. The black water is dragging us down into the open wound of the planet, kilometers deep, straight into the boiling blood of the earth. The pressure is snapping my bones. It is crushing your skull. My vision is tearing at the edges. Look at the walls of the chasm. They are glowing, a sick, violent, radioactive red. The entire ocean is pouring into the deep mantle. Trillions of tons of freezing seawater colliding head-on with pure liquid rock. But it does not turn to steam. The hydrostatic pressure down here is too immense. It physically forbids the water from boiling. It forces the ocean into a supercritical state. It becomes a hypersolvent, a terrifying fluid that is neither gas nor liquid. It is dissolving the mantle. The water is eating the rock from the inside out, stripping the minerals of their molecular integrity. Solid basalt is turning into toxic, superheated jelly right before our eyes. And the crystal, the zircon, it is plunging right beside us. I can see it, glowing in the suffocating dark. The bubble inside it, the microscopic drop of original water. It is screaming. Do you hear it? A high-pitched, deafening whine drilling violently into the back of your brain. Acoustic cavitation. The shock waves from the collapsing crust are hitting the microscopic bubble. The water inside the tiny crystal is expanding and collapsing millions of times a second. It is tearing atoms apart. Flashes of blinding blue light are erupting in the pitch-black abyss. Sonoluminescence. The birth and death of microscopic stars. It is happening all around us. Microscopic bubbles in the supercritical fluid are collapsing, generating localized heat spikes of tens of thousands of degrees Celsius. It is hotter than the surface of the sun down here in the deepest dark. But the zircon, the crystal, is absorbing the shock waves. The trapped water is resonating, building kinetic energy, hoarding it. Why? Why is it pushing back? The simulation is screaming. My console is bleeding raw data. I cannot log out. The exit protocols are gone, erased. This is not a historical record. I was wrong. I was so blindly wrong. This is a blueprint. The water trapped inside that microscopic crystal is not just a remnant. It is a seed. The ocean above us is too heavy. The mantle below us is too volatile. The crust is just a fragile eggshell crushed between two unstoppable planetary forces. The planet cannot digest this much water. It is going to regurgitate it, and the crystal is the detonator. Look at it. The bubble is expanding furiously now, pushing violently against the indestructible walls of the zircon lattice. The pressure inside that microscopic sphere is now astronomically greater than the entire dark ocean crushing down on it. It remembers. The water remembers the exact pressure of the Great Rifting. It is a time capsule of sheer, planetary-scale kinetic violence. The indestructible crystal is fracturing. A microscopic flaw in the perfect lattice. A hairline crack. I cannot stop it. We are locked in the archive. My hands are completely numb. My lungs are flooded with phantom water. The heat is returning. Not from the mantle, from the crystal. It is bright. It is too bright. Close your eyes. Cover your face. Close them right now. The lattice snaps. The bubble shatters. White. Everything is violently, blindingly white. There is no sound. The explosion of that single, microscopic drop of water has ruptured your eardrums. Blood is pooling in the back of your throat. You cannot breathe. A microscopic shock wave is expanding at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour through the solid, boiling mantle. It hits the rock. It hits the supercritical fluid, but it does not stop. It echoes, because there was never just one crystal. Look at the glowing walls of the endless abyss. Look deeper into the bleeding crust of the entire planet. Millions of them, billions of them, trillions of microscopic zircons, buried in the dark, hidden in every single centimeter of the planetary shell. And the shock wave from the first one just hit them all. A planetary chain reaction. Every single microscopic bubble of trapped, highly pressurized original water detonates at the exact same fraction of a second. The crust is not just cracking, it is disintegrating, turning into absolute dust. The entire ocean above us is being weaponized. Trillions of tons of freezing water are violently turned into super expanded vapor instantly, from the bottom up. The planet is tearing itself inside out. A global hydrodynamic bomb. The early Earth was never a calm, slowly cooling rock. It was a ticking mechanism, a cyclic engine of absolute, unyielding, violent rebirth. And I brought us right into the firing chamber. My console is dead. The simulation is bleeding into reality. Do you feel the heat blistering the skin on your hands? The crushing weight pressing down on your lungs? That is not the simulation. The archive is not a history book. I was completely blind. I was so arrogant, so utterly foolish to think we were merely looking backwards through time. The crystal, the tiny drop of water, we stared right at it. We ignored it. It was not a remnant of the past. It is a diagnostic tool. It is a warning. Because deep beneath our own feet, right now, in the real world, the mantle of our Earth is still full of them. Trillions of microscopic detonators, holding vast, impossible oceans of water under crushing pressure, sleeping, waiting for the crust to shift just a fraction of a centimeter, waiting for a single, perfect acoustic trigger. The ground you are standing on right now, in your room, in your home, in your safe, quiet life. It is vibrating. Can you feel it? Focus. Press your bare feet into the floor. A deep, low, sickly hum, coming from thousands of kilometers straight down in the dark. The cycle is not over. It is merely resetting. The first drop down there has already shattered. The pressure is building under your city. The heat is rising beneath your foundation. You missed the signs. I missed the signs. You need to go back. You have to rewind this record. You need to look at the crystal again. You must see exactly how the light started, exactly how the vibration built up before the very end, because it is happening again. The water is waking up. It is coming for us, right now. Until next time, keep your eyes open. The archive is always watching.